What y'all listening to?
Limelight Highlight Podcast.
Welcome back to the show. It's your boy Jay Rose, and I know I dropped the ball last week by not giving you guys a podcast. If we're being honest, I just didn't feel like it. My heart wasn't in it, so rather than give you something that my heart wasn't in and I didn't put a lot of effort into, I just said, I'll do it next week. But today I will make up for it. We have a special guest, and this will be the longer duration podcast with the not 2 hours, but 1 hour and some change for people. And it's a guy named Hooman. I met him at an engagement party a couple weeks ago. He has a business, has to do with water and analytics, and I won't get too much into detail on what exactly he's doing, but I'll let him explain it. And yeah, the only update I have is go on the Block Gives Back's Facebook page and share their thing so they can win a chance at getting $2,500 to help the city of Philly. That's all I got. I'll give you guys more details on the back end, but let's start the podcast. And Hooman, that's how you pronounce it, right?
That's it, yeah.
All right. So we met a couple weeks ago at an engagement party for Kayla, and we got to talking.
Yeah.
And one of the things we were talking about is you started a company. So to start off the podcast, introduce yourself and how you started everything.
Yeah, so my name is Hooman. I started a company last year.
Try to direct right into the mic. Yeah. Right there.
Started a company last year, and so just to give some background on myself, I grew up in San Diego. I've spent my whole life here. Living in California, I think it's kind of we see kind of the effects of kind of some of the climate stuff that's happening, especially with like drought and all that. And I've always wanted to kind of start a company and kind of build something that can, do some good in the world. And we kind of started Water Vault on this idea that, water is a precious resource. Obviously, we all understand that, and it's a scarce resource. We understand that, but we don't behave that way when we kind of like consume it.
Yeah,
right?
And Water Vault is the name of your company, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Sorry. So Water Vault itself is a device that we use to monitor water usage at like a fixture, so like a toilet, a faucet, whatever, to identify water leaks. And so kind of what you see is like a toilet flapper goes wrong or goes bad, and it'll waste like tens of thousands of gallons of water for no reason other than just like it's leaking, and people just don't care. And so we kind of, when I looked at the problem, I said, well, there's got to be a way we can use technology to kind of solve that. And that's kind of where Water Vault kind of grew from, right? The idea that we can use technology that's available today to do this work for us, right? And the work is identify leaks. I'm not a plumber. I'm not an expert, right? But the data tends to be kind of consistent, right? You see what leaks look like, and then leaks tend to look the same. And so we can use a computer to kind of pinpoint that. Right. And that's kind of like the high level of what Water Vault is as a company. Like I said, we started last year, and spent the first year developing the product, right? So that includes software and hardware and getting stuff manufactured. But I've been very adamant about, all my employees are based out of the United States. We do our final assembly, everything happens in San Diego. So we try to kind of keep as much of it local as possible. Homegrown as much as possible. Nice. Yeah. Just because, again, my kind of ethos and what I tell my team all the time is our number one goal is to save water. It's not to save money, because if we save water, then we do save money, right? Like we don't go in kind of this idea that, we have to save money, profit. No, we have to save water, and everything we build, right? Our technology, all of that is based on that.
Nice. And just to backtrack. So Did you go to school? Did you go to college?
Yeah, I went. So I graduated from UCSD in 2005 with an electrical and computer engineering degree. And
what were you doing before you started your own company?
Before that, yeah. So my story, right? So what's my like career story? So in 2005, I graduated. I was doing while I was in college, I was working as an intern at Nokia over here in San Diego, and then I loved industry. I got it, right? Like you kind of were in industry, you had problems in front of you all the time, and then you solved them. And I really kind of gravitated towards that. And school was more like, just got to finish school, just got to get a degree so I can get a job, right? And then in the industry, kind of, I really kind of grew. I took that Nokia job. I was there for a few years, and then I get a phone call one day from Apple, and they asked me, hey, you want to come and work on iPods? And I was like, yeah, iPods are really cool. This is back in 2005,
especially
6.
when they're starting to get real big.
Yeah, it was like 5 and 6.
Popular.
So everybody, like, iPod was like the thing. And I end up getting my job. I got a job at Apple in 2006. And like a week after I start, I get called in the senior vice president's office. And he's like, I need you to sign all this paperwork. And I was like, well, I already signed a bunch of paperwork. He's like, no, sign this for another special project. And long story short, I was part of the original team to build the original iPhone.
What?
Yeah.
Generation 1?
Generation 1. Yeah. So we were the first 30 some odd people kind of doing iPhone development in a small room in a back corner of Apple's campus. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Super small, but it was an amazing experience. I ended up being there for 6 years, and I ended up managing all of wireless communications. So kind of like Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, cellular. So if you've ever like text messaged on an iPhone or used Wi-Fi on an iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, it's come through one of my teams at some point.
That's cool.
But it was a really amazing experience because we were you got to work with really smart people, and you got to like absorb as much as possible from those guys, right? And so like a lot of what I brought to my company as I started it, almost 10, 15 years after that, was this experience that I've learned from people that had 20, 30 years of experience prior to me, right? And I think that's I think anytime you want to start a company or you want to start anything on your own, right, you have to kind of leverage as much of the experiences of the people around you or the resources around you to be successful. It's not a single person game.
It's a team thing.
Right? I mean, even with like your podcast, right? Like there's a lot more than just you involved, right? There's
for sure
marketing and there's all these things that you kind of get out. And so the same thing for what you do. Like I'm not a marketing expert, but I work with some of the best marketing people in the world, and I learn from them.
Yeah, you got tools.
Some tool, right?
For sure.
It's not, you don't learn all the tools, but like I said, you get the basics, and then you can use that to grow into something more. So after Apple, I left there, and it, like I said, it was a great experience, a lot of work.
Can I ask why you left?
I left in 2012. The dynamic of the company had slightly changed since when I first started. When I first started, I was really lucky. Like I said, really smart people. I got to work with guys like Steve Jobs, like on a regular basis.
Nice.
And that was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Right? We got to kind of interact with him directly and indirectly, kind of getting direction as far as like...
I don't mean to cut you off, but I heard something. I don't know if you can validate it or not.
Sure.
They said when he was developing the iPhone, he wanted a team of people who didn't know how to create a phone because he wanted a different aspect or mindset on.
Yeah. So when so iPhone kind of grew organically, and that's one of the things like Apple does, I think, really well, is they tend to grow these teams organically, which I think is always important anytime you want to build a company, a product, whatever. So I think the first core group of people that kind of came on the product early on, right, 2004 or 5, so like maybe a year or two before even I got there, this conceptual team was kind of like, yeah, we want to break the norm of what we think a phone should be, right? The idea was like less phone, more computer in your pocket. Gotcha. Right. And that was the original kind of theme behind what they wanted to do with iPhone, right? Kind of this idea where I can do email, I can do web browsing, I can listen to music, I can make a phone call. All of this is one device, right? And then building on top of that. So yeah, it did kind of start as a just this idea that let's not build the exact same thing every other company has, because otherwise they would have lost.
Right.
They would have lost to Nokia or BlackBerry,
are,
Motorola. They were all huge.
Especially BlackBerry back then.
Cause BlackBerry was huge. Motorola was huge. And all of those guys now, where are they?
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
And I think that kind of just speaks volumes of sometimes it's worth it to take an idea and just completely turn it upside down and see what falls out, right? And build something new. So, but yeah, I end up leaving Apple just because the dynamic kind of changed. And, after Steve died, I think the company kind of just changed direction, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of had different leadership. And
it's crazy that one person you can see something change almost overnight.
Yeah.
Like even from my point of view, where I'm not involved in tech or anything like that, but I've had the iPhone since day one, and you could just see the company in a sense go a different direction.
Yeah.
Right.
I think when you have guys like Steve that have so much just juice behind them, right?
Yeah.
Like these guys, they're such a personality, and they're such a my way or the highway kind of guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was
very clear direction.
Was he very like?
He was, but I think as an engineer,
you kind of have to be.
I've always said that I loved it as an engineer, right? There's nothing worse than having a boss who doesn't know what they want.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
So you have a boss that knows exactly what they want. Now he wasn't good at communicating, nice ways of doing that. Right. He was like, I want this, and if you don't do it, then you are, an idiot for not doing it this way, right? Yeah. And he didn't have that kind of, that is, I think, where a lot of people always say, oh, he's a jerk or whatever.
You need a little tough skin around him.
You have to be, you have to, right? Yeah. You have to be confident in what you're doing. There's definitely times where, I got the brunt of it, and then later on he's like, kind of forgot all about it. And he's like, oh, this is good. This
another
is
personal.
Another personal business.
Exactly. Nice.
So I think, like I said, once he died, I think the dynamic changed because people were, nobody can really fill his shoes. And then anytime you try to do that, like you're not Steve. Like I'm not Steve Jobs, right? So I cannot emulate the things that he does because I haven't earned it.
Right.
He earned it through years of just his own tough skin.
Right. So back to after leaving Apple.
I left Apple. I kind of took some time off. Just spent some time reconnecting with friends and family and traveling a little bit. And that was kind of, in my opinion, that was kind of like a needed reset, right? I was in my 20s, early 30s at Apple, and kind of work was my life. Everything was revolving around that. And I was kind of like, I defined who I was by my work. And then I kind of took a step back and realized that's not who defines who I am. What kind of person I am and the relationships I have and the experiences that I'm able to get, those are what defines my life. And I took some time off, and then I went to another startup company. We did some Bluetooth stuff there, and then we got acquired by Qualcomm. And then I went to Qualcomm. Most recently, I left Qualcomm about a year ago, but during the couple of years I was there, I was the director of advanced technologies for them. Nice. So then I did kind of smart things, like smart city, smart industrial stuff and all that. And
Qualcomm is a tech company?
Yeah, Qualcomm is one of the largest private employers here in San Diego. They're a big tech company. They primarily develop mobile technologies like CDMA, so like the back-end technology for guys like Verizon. Okay. So like they build like the chipset that the mobile phone works off of. But
so you've held some pretty high positions in some pretty high platform tech companies, huh? I
mean, yeah, I guess, but I never look at it, like that was never my goal. My goal was never to like move up in the world. My goal, and what I was always taught early on, was you just got to work hard and keep your nose down, and opportunities will present themselves, and you have to be prepared well enough to take advantage of it, right? I think that's a lot of times people are like, oh, you were lucky, you're this or that. And I'm like, yeah, I was probably lucky, right? Lucky in the sense the opportunity presented itself.
But it wasn't without work.
Exactly.
Sure.
That work is that hard work that prepared you for the moment to recognize, hey, not only is this an opportunity, but also I'm going to seize it. I'm going to capitalize on it, right? But it's been fun. I mean, I love it. I love kind of the tech world. For me has always been interesting. I think there's a lot of like the constant change and the constant like pushing of the status quo, right?
Yeah.
Like that no